Well, Call of Duty actually has quite a big allegation against them right now. They are being alleged to have some sort of a responsibility in a very, very fatal and very serious situation, which happened in America about 3 years ago. This was on May 24th, 2022. This was the Uvalde incident that took the lives of 19 students and 2 teachers, and of course, many others were injured, and of course, many others were just simply traumatized and will never be the same. It was just a completely horrific, awful incident that was carried out by one complete loser who did take his life after all of it. If you live here in the US, you probably remember exactly when this happened. It was all over the news for a while. Now, as these things happen, I'm sure you've forgotten about it, I've forgotten about it, we've all forgotten about it, and that's too bad because these situations are very horrible and we should continue talking about them. But if you pay attention, these incidents never do go away, or at least for many, many years, there are always legal proceedings. Who should we actually hold responsible? There are lawsuits, that kind of thing. And you see, about a year ago, this all started, where families of the 19 victims basically issued 3 lawsuits. This was in May 2024. Now, one of these was against the police officers for, I don't know if you remember, but this was actually like the biggest part of the news. This really dominated the news around this. This is regarding the police basically standing around and barricading off the school rather than going in to try to stop the shooter. It was a completely messed up situation. So yeah, I mean, that is absolutely legitimate. Me personally, I am very glad that those officers are getting some sort of a lawsuit, so we'll see what happens with that. Now, the second suit is against a company called Daniel Defense for the manufacturing of the weapon used in the incident. That's very interesting. I don't really have the context, I guess, so I guess I shouldn't really just rush to conclusion. But that's definitely odd, at least to me. Now, this is the interesting part. The third and final suit here that was filed in May of 2024. This was against both Meta platforms and Activision Blizzard, which is essentially Instagram and Call of Duty. The families are claiming that these 2 platforms, Instagram and Call of Duty, indoctrinated the assailant toward this specific kind of violence. Yeah, I think I've heard this argument quite a few times in the past. Call of Duty should be held responsible for things like this. Maybe not exactly mass incidents like this, but yeah, anytime something like this happens involving someone passing away, using some sort of a weapon like this, Call of Duty can usually get blamed, and yeah, it looks like they are doing just that. The lawsuit says, to put a finer point on it, the defendants, so Activision, Call of Duty, they are chewing up alienated teenage boys and spitting out mass shooters. I'm not even going to try to censor myself there. I just had to say it. But yeah, that's just very an interesting one. So they note that the 3 most deadly shootings that were in America for K through 12 schools, these incidents were the Uvalde incident, the Parkland incident, and the Sandy Hook incident, were all committed by young men who played Call of Duty and used an AR-15. Okay, I mean, how much did they play Call of Duty? Well, I mean, there's a lot of questions here. Call of Duty can be really common for teenage boys. I mean, you can also say that, all 3 of them wore shoes that day. But of course, the argument is that Call of Duty has guns in it. It has weapons. But this, I think, takes it too far. So the second part there, it says, quote, Call of Duty is a simulation, not a game. That is not true. It is, in fact, a game. It teaches players how to aim, reload, and fire accurately while habituating the teenage nervous system to inflict repeated graphic violence. And though the killing is virtual, the weapons are authentic. No, last I checked, the weapons are still virtual. Now, Activision's lawyer came out really just in a way that I thought was very good, completely shutting this down, saying this is going to be a completely open and shut nonsense case, and I do kind of hope that's true here, just specifically for this Activision thing, holding them responsible. Like I said, the other stuff I don't really know about. So the Activision lawyer, she is saying that the First Amendment bars their claims, period, full stop. She says the issues of gun violence are incredibly difficult, but the evidence in this case is not. And it says that she argued that the case has little chance of prevailing if it continues, because courts have repeatedly held that creators of artistic works, whether they be books, music, movies, movies or TV or video games cannot be held legally liable for the acts of their audience. See, and that's something I probably should have mentioned a little bit earlier here, why I'm talking about this now. You see, she says, if this case continues on. The reason we're now talking about it 1 year later, the reason why this whole thing has actually been coming back in the news with the Call of Duty lawsuit here, is that this case, this story is evolving, and actually last Friday on July 18th, there was a hearing in Los Angeles on this, where basically Activision and Meta were both there represented by lawyers, and they were making their case to dismiss these claims, basically making the case that this case should not proceed. And of course, this is all just a process. Activision has made their case, and now it looks like next month, Meta will be presenting their defense in court. The Meta Instagram thing, by the way, I'm still kind of not sure what the allegation is as far as their alleged role in this whole thing. It sounds like the argument is that the assailant, he viewed like videos and stuff on Instagram with these like sort of weapons that he was using, which again, that argument to me just sounds just as ridiculous as the Call of Duty argument. So yeah, we will see what actually happens with this. This case could very well be dismissed even before it can even go forward.